Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Indie Volt Special Issues. I am your host, Varian Grant. I am getting things together here for the show, but we are going to be talking about something very important today, and it's something that just I just found out about a week ago, and we're going to discuss it, and we are going to uh, go into detail of implications it can mean for our industry as far as independent creators or just creators period. So we're going to talk about it. I'm going to roll the intro and we're going to get into it. Thank you for being here with us today. Stay with us for after the intro. Here we go. Hello, once again. My name is Varian Grant. I am the founder of Indie Vote Media LLC and the host of this show, Indie Vote Special Issues, where we will be discussing today the implications that I just discovered of a list. I was just told about this Sunday night last week of a list of creators. These creators on this list are all creators who have been presumed CG. They've been presumed Comicsgate, and there are those in the industry who have chosen not to work with those creators for various reasons. One of which is that some people doesn't want to work with them because they feel that they heard rumors, they've heard things. They've chosen not to work with those people, which is fine. And then there are some people who chose not to work with them because they say that it's going to limit their chances to get in the industry. Now, we don't have this story on indievote.com right now. We don't have this story up there because it's not a story that we would usually run. So let's talk about this for a second. So to break it down for you, what's happened is that there is a website, and I'll bring it up for you here. It's a website called cg.org. And that site is a Comicsgate site. Now, that particular site has a list of Comicsgate creators so that you can find, creators you're willing to work with or follow, or if you're looking to, support one of the artists or the creators, you can do that. But the list has also being used now to decide who you should stay away from working with. Now, some people take issue with that because generally, at least in this country, and maybe not just this country, but in a lot of countries, lists aren't a thing that historically they're not looked on favorably. And having said that, you start wondering what the connotations for this list will be. And you start worrying because I spoke to a creator who told me who made me aware of this list Sunday. And he told me that he was told by several, or he was told, I'm not sure if he said several, I don't want to misquote him, but he said he was told that if he wants to work in the mainstream, he cannot work with anyone on the list. Now, let that sink in for a second. If he wants to work with anyone on the mainstream, he cannot work with anyone on the list. Now, here at Indie Vault, we are media, so we cover everyone because this is one of the things that we want to be is true media. We don't want to be a company that just sides with one spectrum of the industry. So, you don't, as long as it's independent, we'll cover it. So what happened when I seen this list, I went through it, and there are several people that I know that are on the list personally, that I personally know that are on this list. And I reached out to some of them. And the oddest thing happened. One of them, who I wish would, I was hoping he would reach out to me and come on the show. He didn't know he was on the list. He had no idea. He didn't sign up. He didn't do anything. He just didn't know. He didn't understand why he was on the list. He told me, he said, Varian, I didn't know I was on that list. So I'm going to bring it up here because I think I can do that here. Let's see if I can bring and hope it's not. Let me make sure I go on another tab because I want to make sure I bring up the right tab for you. I don't want to bring up pornography by accident. There we go. So yeah, if you go over to the let me bring it up here for you guys. And sorry I don't have my camera on today. I'm having I use my camera. So if you go over to the comicsgate.org site, if you click on creators, there's a list of creators there. Some of which are people that I know, people I consider friends. And they're there. But this list is being used to tell people, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stop sharing it, but this list is being used to for some people to say, I don't want to work with those people. Now, are these creators on this list getting their just desserts? I mean, they're flying a flag that certain people don't like, people who don't agree with politically or ideally. Are they getting the just desserts? Are they now finding out, hey, you know, this is what happens? Or is this list something that can be used against you? Because again, the gentleman I spoke to didn't know he was on the list. He didn't know. So I'm concerned about, and many others are concerned about how this list will work out in the future for people. What if you're not? What if you didn't? What if you're on the list just because you wish to to maybe talk to everyone, be friends with everyone. Anyway, I'm gonna open up the stream to have people come in and discuss it with me. If you want, there's the invitation link. It's out there. Feel free to come in. Feel free to discuss things. Keep in mind, this will be a serious discussion. This is not going to be a discussion where we demonize either side. We want to talk about it, whether you're for or against. You know, you can consider this a safe space to discuss this issue of this list, and if it's something that you know, you would use to either work with someone or not work with someone. I personally don't like the idea of list, and I talked to someone who used the list, and they told me they understand why people would find it unfavorable and why people would not like to be on the list. Let's look at the chat for a second. I'm gonna bring up some messages in the chat. So we got Pop says, my list is based on personal experience of people, not others whining. Bristolian Dave says, these lists are basically for virtual signalers who want to win points by saying ew. Comments say, well, here's the thing, Dave. This list is made to actually push Comicsgate. This list was meant to help them, not to, you know, not to demonize, not to hold these people accountable. This list was not meant to make people it wasn't meant to make people not get jobs, not get work. It wasn't meant that way. It wasn't for that reason. It's just someone took the list and said, okay, look, they provided us a list of names, you know, let's not work for these people. And, you know, I've heard things. I've heard red list. I've heard McCarthyism. Now, I've done a lot of research or history. I know what McCarthyism is. I'm glad I didn't grow up in that era. But for those of us who did, I can imagine it being very scary and very, very troubling. Nita Lanning says it's being used to blackball outside the CG community. Adam Prime work with any and all creators. Don't be an asshole and we're good. Yeah. Yeah. Creators says, I missed the intro. What list these? List over at comicsgate.org. There's a community, there's a creators list of creators, and people are using that list to not work with those people. They said, sorry, I should clarify. This list is used by virtual signalers. This list of this promotion for creators. It is. And let's take a look at let's bring in I have someone in the back room here. Pops has joined. He's clicked on the link. He wants to enter the Thunderdome, as it were, to discuss this. And Pops, how's it going?
Hello, Marion. How you doing?
Pretty good.
I got Pops, a simple way of looking at this whole thing. Okay. You know, I have a Facebook group, and anybody can join that group as long as you act right. After you've done something stupid and you get eliminated from the group, now you're on a list, so to speak. Okay? But you were included in the beginning and you screwed that up. There's a difference. This kind of using this kind of a list and saying all these creators that are Hat Club are bad people and you shouldn't associate with any of them and you won't be allowed into mainstream if you do. This leads me to my next question. If those are the goalposts, who would want to work in mainstream?
Well, there are people who that's their dream. Their dream is to work in mainstream. Their dream is to work on a Marvel book.
To work in the mainstream they grew up loving and knowing. It's not the same anymore. If you want to be part of that mainstream, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, let me ask you this, Pops. Let me ask you this, because you recently came out. I want to. Yes. I hate the word "came out." I hate it because it's not like
I declared. I declared myself Hat Club.
That's right. So you recently declared yourself as CG, and don't you feel, Pops, that you had a responsibility to those inside of the Madness group, to those that you work with, to maybe talk to them first and say, "Hey, here's what I'm doing"?
I didn't change the group though. I didn't make it so that you had to be CG to participate in the group. This is my own personal thing. This is me personally. Okay, I align with the values. I sat on the sidelines, V, for a year and a half. Okay, my values align with what their values align with. Good books, good creations, being cool. Okay, to everybody and anybody. That's pretty much what the madness is. We let anybody in. Now, I've had to eliminate people from the group that are CG, but a whole lot more that aren't. A whole lot more. Because they got mad at me for being me. Nothing changed me. I'm the same guy. I do all the same stuff. I don't put CG creators ahead of anybody else. I open up CromCon to first come, first serve. I open up Monday Madness to first come, first serve. I only gatekeep people that have treated me like shit personally. So if you see somebody vote, it's not a list. They're not on a list.
Now here's the thing, Pops. I find this odd though. Now you've declared yourself. You're not on that list, but you're also not a creator. You haven't created. So you're not a creator. You are not on that list. Should you be?
I don't know. I think, look, I mean, I rode the middle for a long time and I took shit from both sides in some places, in some cases. Okay. I don't think there's we called ourselves the middle ground for a long time. Finally, I got sick of, having to act like I didn't believe in good comics, good people, good, I had to play a game to pacify some people. Why should I have to do that? Why can't the groups and whatever just be about good books?
I want to take a look at it. I want to read this from Brad Arney. Brad says, I love lists, but not for something of this nature. Everyone is free to hold their own ideas or beliefs. If you don't agree with those beliefs, then don't purchase their works. A list calling out people that don't hold the same ideas as you is awful. It's also, it's almost in a way. I mean, like I could see, I would be a lot more, I guess I can't say I would be irritated, but wouldn't you be more, like, this list is not meant to blackball. This list was meant to promote. This list was not, but it's like taking, it depends on what side you're on. But to take the list and say, now here's the thing though, there is someone, and when I got this straight from a creator, I got this straight from someone who says, I was told that if I want to work in the mainstream, that means they heard this from a mainstream source, I need to look at this list and not work with anybody on it. And this mainstream person,
what happened? Maybe not.
Or this mainstream outlet is telling people this. There's a lot of people this, not just one or two, a lot. So this list now is, hey, go check the list often, go check it out, see who's on there, and don't work with them. this, but
don't follow them on Facebook. Don't be caught agreeing with them. Don't be this. Don't be that. When my boss starts telling me how I'm supposed to live my life outside of my job, what do? I find a new job. I find a new job. It's not it's not the mainstream's job to police who gets the work. It should be who's the best person for the job.
Yeah,
like everything should be who's the best person for the job, regardless of race, sex, gender, or any religion, anything. Who's the best person for the job? That's who you hire if you're a smart boss.
Imperium Volts, this is the great where it says list. The list is over its comicsgate.org. And again, the list is not meant to be used as a blacklist. It's a promotional tool, but it's the same thing as someone getting, perhaps, check this out. I don't know what would you guys think about this? Let's say someone gets a list of your customers and they decide, I'm not going to deal with anyone on this customer list, or I'm going to release your customer list to the world so everyone can see who
Everybody
supports
knows who
you.
backs you. Yeah. That's the way it's going to go, V.
Especially because now
they dig through these people's social media for years in the past to find anything they can to gaslight them. Well, I mean, this whole thing, look, mainstream media and the people who want to be part of mainstream media, it ain't cool. It ain't cool how they treat everybody else.
Now, there are some people who don't want to be part of mainstream, and this doesn't affect them. Like, I don't care. But for those who do want to be part of mainstream, if you're told that, though, listen, I mean, Pops, I think I understand what you're saying, but I also got to understand. I also have to, as the host of the show, I have to be fair, and I have to think, okay, if my boss, because I've worked in a factory union setting for a long while, and what my boss says usually goes, because I need to keep working, I need to keep a paycheck in the house. And if I think, okay, well, like for example, when I worked at General Motors, there was a strict zero tolerance drug policy. It was strict; you cannot do drugs.
Right.
Okay, they could randomly drug test you. They never did, but they could. Especially if you came to work looking like you were sloshed or high, they could drug test you. That was my boss telling me what I could not do outside of the workplace. Now, having said that, I could understand them saying, "Hey, you know what? If you want to work with people, if you work with those people, we're not going to let you in." I can understand that. I can understand a creator being scared about that. I can understand a creator being told, or especially a creator who doesn't, oh man, if I can understand the fear.
It's a ridiculously horrible thing, man.
It is.
Somebody doesn't mean you are that person, or you hold that person's beliefs, or you're going to act on anything. You see what I mean? It's like guilt by association. That's just wrong. It's wrong on every level. If you let somebody in and they screw you over, then yeah, you got a right to put them over there in the penalty box and keep them walled off from your friends so that shit don't happen to them too. But if this person's never done nothing wrong and it's their friends list you're worried about, dude, that's policing. That's ridiculous.
Let's look at. We've been joined by Will Pace. Will.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Hi. How are you?
It's just talk show hosts up here talking about this. Where's the goddamn creators at? Come up here and give us some of your opinions. How do you feel about being told who you can work with? Doesn't that, dude? That would piss me off, man.
Now, here's the thing. Here's what made me do make this the issue of special issues. What really cemented it as something that I knew I had to do. When I talked to a creator who said, "What list? What do you mean I'm on a list?" I said, You haven't seen it?" And he said, "No, what are you talking about? I'm not on a." And when I showed him, he says, "Holy shit, I didn't sign up for that. I didn't sign up for that." And so here he is. Now he's missing out on opportunities. He's been labeled let's face it, I mean, he's been labeled a communist at this point. You know, he's on the red list. He can't work. Well, people, I say he can work. There are people who have a preconceived idea about him because he's on a list that he didn't even ask to be on. So the list is not foolproof.
It's definitely not foolproof. Everybody has their own friends list. And if you go look at everybody's friends list, you'll pretty much find people from both sides of the issue on everybody's friends list. We're going to end up canceling everybody if we keep this stupid shit up, man.
Meredith Logman says people have lost work sometimes mid-project because they were either on the list or associated with people on the list. Buggery indeed. We should hashtag buggery. Comics thuggery. I agree. I think that is extremely. By the way, if I were, and I'm a publisher, but if I was looking at someone and someone told me, "Hey, John Smith," I'm sorry if there's a John Smith out there, but John Smith abandoned.
Don't worry about this. We got you, bro.
yeah. John Smith. Abandoned
John
a project.
Smith out of my wall, Barry.
John Smith abandoned a project because the person on the project or a person on the project is CG. He abandoned the project midway through to where they had to go back through and redo the art or get a new artist or a new colorist. Set the project back a couple $100, a couple months. I'm, as a publisher, a lot less likely to want to work with John Smith. Even though he virtually looking to his friends, say, "Hey, I left that project in the lurch because I didn't want to work with those people." I'm gonna be like, man, what happens if someone on the book?
This is not good work ethic. This is not good business. This is not. There's nothing good about that. So, you see.
Imperial Volt says, "Wow, anyone who will cut you off, you need to work for. Don't be afraid of these people." Bristol says, "That's exactly. The people that are saying don't work with these people are simply using it as a means of control over creators, so their way of life and view is never affected." That's a good point. I want to dive into that, Dave. I wouldn't, which is why I work alone, says Doris Jones. Brad says, "I have heard the term comics gay, but I'm still confused as to what it truly is. Can any of you define it for me?" I would let other people who are CG. I know Luke Stone is listening. Maybe pop in and talk about it. Empyrean Vote. We have Brad on our channel. There is a Comics Gate versus SJW video that we did about a year ago now, where we had team people from both sides come in mid-ground and talk about it. It's a very good video. If you get a chance, look it up. Empyrean Vote says, "You think Jack Kirby would stand for this? You don't have to buy the towels."
That's right. There's Randy. Randy's on his soapbox right now.
Live by the list, die by the list. People who segregate by list or color or religion or sexual preference all end up on the wrong side of history. And Luke Stone said it happened to me. Luke Stone, who is on the comicsgate.org list. He is up there. He's aware of his listing, though. He was aware of his listing. The other creator I spoke to was not aware of their listing and was actually pretty shocked they were up there because they've never done anything to declare themselves as CG, which, again, like you said,
you just have to have friends. That's what I said. If you look at everybody's friends list, you will find people that are CG and you will find people that are not CG on everybody's friends list. There are very few people that are all the way seriously one or the other and won't talk to anybody on the other side. Like, very few. They don't even know it.
You have a show?
I had some people come at me when I declared Comicsgate. I had some people come at me, and I went and looked at dude's friends list, and I said, "Yo, dude, you're friends with the same people I am. Nothing has changed. I just agree with the way they present their work and the way they promote their work and the way they back each other up and hang out." Okay, it's like it's more of a family than the indie community.
Well, let's give Will a chance to weigh in here as a showrunner. Will, you talk to pretty much everyone?
I talk to everyone and anyone.
Have you ever said, I don't want to talk to this person because they're CG?
No.
Have you said, I don't want to talk to this person because they're anti-CG?
No.
Okay.
I've talked to everybody. One of my very first guests on my show was Scott Hanna, who we know is very mainstream and freelance and has worked for decades for both Marvel and DC, and is a top guy in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the nicest guys I talked to, and the subject was never brought up, but what happens is anytime somebody makes a list, even for like the best purposes, somebody else out there will use it to weaponize it against those people.
Yep. No matter what it's for.
This is to me another worst case, and it makes me think that they're using this as another form of identity politics, which is never good.
Now you say that. Now let's. I mean, again, I sent links out. I sent. Okay. Here's the problem. I spoke to someone, whom we all know, and he's very talented individual. He's worked at DC. He's worked at Marvel. He's worked with the mainstream,
mm-hmm.
and he has been labeled CG. He's never threw a hashtag up, but CG has adopted him as one of their own. And I talked to him about it. He says, my phone hasn't stopped ringing. No one stopped calling me. I just got approached by a big name to do some work, some mainstream work. I don't understand what this is. What is this? What are you talking about? And I told him this is complete madness. I don't understand this. And so his phone hasn't stopped ringing. Maybe the mainstream will put that aside when money's involved because there's talent. Speaking of talent, let's bring some talent in who want to weigh in on this.
We're going to bring talent, or we're going to go under.
We're bringing Randy Zimmerman in. We're bringing Marv in, creator of Spin Killer, and we're bringing Luke Stone, who does appear on the list, into this conversation. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Welcome to Special Issues.
Hey guys,
I'm on a lot of lists.
I hate this. I just came here because this topic really pisses me off about those kind of people. So
yeah, look, Marvel, what upsets you about it?
What upsets me? I've been bullied a lot. Hey pops. I've been bullied a lot about who and where I should do exhibitions, who I should talk to, and who I should kiss ass and lick boots, and who I should stab in the back. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't go anywhere. So that's kind of a thing that really pisses me off. And I know who I want to work with. I have a list of great people, and I don't care if you're CG, if you smoke crack or whatever. As long as you love comics, and as long as you're a good guy, I'll back you up, so I'll work with you. So I don't give a shit about those kind of people. So
yeah, Imperial Vol takes aim at the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. He says if the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund actually had a meaning, it doesn't. It would be used to sue these people for torture and interference.
He says, that's not the purpose of the fund, though.
No, I mean,
this is internal bickering, and the fund is out to protect comics from the misnomers of the outside world, not the inside.
Well, the outside world has invaded the inside world, Randy.
That's true to a point, Pops. But all this prejudicial crap is going on inside of it's not even going on inside the industry. It's going inside the freaking community, which is really the problem. If it's in the industry, if you're doing an industry, you're out there trying to make money, and you're not out there trying to prejudice. You're not out there pointing fingers where they don't belong at people who've done nothing.
Imperial Vol said Chuck Dixon works to this day. Sergio Cariello works to this day. Dale Keon works to this day. The blacklist is an empty threat from non-talents. Ouch.
Empyrean has a really good point. And I'm not saying that the people who prejudice against the list are not talented. It's just that the talented people are out there making money, and they're out. It doesn't matter. It used to be before the last couple presidents. It didn't matter how you voted. If you made money for the company, you made money.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk to Luke, who actually had to suffer through someone leaving his project because they found his name on that list.
Yeah, two people to this point.
Or his name was pointed out to be on that list, probably.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. So, I've had an editor leave, and I've had a letterer leave. The most recent was a letterer on a project that had a due date of about 8 more days before it was due for print, and they dropped because my name appears on a list.
Or it was pointed out to him that your name appeared on the list.
Pointed out to her.
Or to her, sorry. That is torturous interference.
That is torturous interference. And furthermore, so I appear on this list. I'm a Comicsgate creator. I have a bunch of fans and a bunch of creators that I work with that are aligned with Comicsgate. Though the public stance on what Comicsgate is, if you would go and Google it, it's not accurate. It says, I believe it pretty much focuses on the fact that it's just a bigoted, anti-women kind of movement, which is it's so grossly not true. The majority of the people that I work with within the Comicsgate movement are in fact women, people of color, or LGBTQ plus.
We're discussing the list over at for the Facebook user. I can't see your name, but we're discussing the list over at comicsgate.org and how that list is being used by people to apparently blacklist people like Luke, like others. Here's the problem, and I keep saying this, and I've had people come to me at Indie Vote here and say, hey, why don't you push, you shouldn't have this person on because they're this way. And I tell people all the time, we don't care what side. I don't care if you're anti-Comicsgate. We're coming here for this to celebrate comics. But when I hear about a list, as a black man,
that people work off of,
I get worried.
That people work or don't work off of.
Before I say too much more, I can't stay long because I actually have a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. One of the, just kind of a byproduct of buckling down and creating. I just actually have a lot of work to do. Yeah. And so, so apparently I'm on this list, and two people have chosen not to work with me because of that list. I do have one other person who's, because I'm on that list, has asked to use a different name, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I understand, the political nature of things. I guess if you want to work for the big two, eventually down the road, you can't have any association with that list at all.
Well, that's really curious though, because the big two also have another list of people that reinforce the original list that they won't hire or let in anymore either. That's
that
true. They cause trouble, and they're known as for rabble rousing. So they are quietly blacklisting those people as well.
Yeah, they're quietly blacklisting the people that created the list in the first place. Or the need for a list, if you will. But I think what really astounds me is that people will cancel themselves. But what astounds me is that people will turn down immediate work with immediate payment from creators who are good people and nice people for potential work that doesn't even exist yet. Or when they do get that work, it's a downgrade from what they're currently doing. Like, you're walking away from a situation with a good creator, with someone who that you possibly have a friendship with or have created a friendship with over the course of the years. And this was the case with both of the people that decided not to work with me. It's no surprise to people. People know who chose not to work with me. It's public.
It's always the other side not wanting to work with your side.
True.
Yeah.
I've never had anybody that's in the that's Comicsgate related ever say, "Hey, Luke, you can't work with them because they're anti-comics."
It's the side that cries that the people on the list are the ists and the phobes and the haters, and they're the ones out there hating.
I have gotten warnings. I have gotten warnings from people in Comicsgate that says beware of that person because they tend to be extremely toxic. And part of their toxicity is they're now anti-CG because they caused fights with the people that were inside of every. But those people have that problem with every community. Like those are the ones that stand alone that are islands. I don't work with anybody. It's because you can't. It's hard for you to work with anyone.
I got a question for you, Luke, because I want to be fair here. I want to be fair here.
Sure.
You were the editor-in-chief of Terraform Comics. You were also working with another book. I won't say the name of the book because I haven't had permission from that creator to speak on this. But you went CG in the middle of a campaign and while running a company. You declared CG.
Yes.
You had to understand how that would make people feel on either side. Like if you weren't CG, it's like, holy crap, you threw me under the bus. Not me. I didn't feel this way. Like, did you feel like you threw people under the bus when you did that, or did you feel like? Because I know some creators did take that issue with you.
Yeah, I don't, because here's the reason why. I was on that list before I ever associated myself with Comicsgate. I was, I had 60% of my fan base was already in that camp. And about 20% of the people that I had worked with professionally on any of my creative teams were associated with that particular movement or hashtag. And I had a lot of knowledge and understanding of what that hashtag really meant. If you ever look up the 5 points of CG, and that's up to you, do your homework, you can look that up. But the more you look up what it really, like what the movement, how the movement started and why it was there, it was an industry that had pretty much told fans, no, you're wrong. You can't dislike this because of any other reason but the fact that you're a bigot. It can't be that we didn't write it well, that we didn't present it well, that we didn't market it well. It's because you're X, Y, or Z. Or because you're not X, Y, or Z. And those fans felt alienated. And I understood that. I understood where they were coming from. And I just wanted to make comic books that were safe, that were safe for them. They're like, hey, you don't have to worry. There's not going to be any political agenda in here. There's not going to be, I'm not preaching at you. Yeah, I'm a preacher, but I'm not preaching at you. This is just for entertainment. And so I made sure that, and for the most part, people were like, well, dude, you're kind of like CG adjacent already. Even the people that said, oh, well, you threw me under the bus, because those people already believed that I was CG. Like, they knew that I was kind of in that camp because of the people. And it wasn't really me making a declaration. It was me like a friend of mine, Anthony Figaro, says. He goes, I just looked up one day and I'm surrounded by CG. And I'm like, well, apparently this is what I am, And so I made that declaration. In fact, you can go back on my Twitter feed and you can read my declaration. It was in solidarity with my fans that felt that way. And it was in solidarity with some of the people that I worked with that had been grossly mislabeled as being bigots or sexist or something that they certainly were not. And I was like, at this point in my career, I feel like I have a pretty solid relationship with people and a pretty solid reputation in the community that people know who I am. They know me not to be a racist or a bigot or a sexist or any of those ist things. I wasn't any of those ists that people so often want to associate with a group they don't want anyone to associate with. And so I thought, this would be a good time for me to publicly associate myself with that group so that people will start to question, well, if Luke is not that, how can he work with that? That way they can realize that, you may see one or two very bold personalities within any movement, not just Comicsgate, within any movement, but that not necessarily every person that associates in that group is spoken for on behalf of this person or whatever. And so the majority of the people that I know within the Comicsgate movement are hard-working creators. Many of them women and people of color and LGBTQ plus, stuff that just doesn't line up with the narrative. But they're great people, but no one focuses on any of that stuff. All we focus on is making a really good comic, and people get hired on a project if they're good or they're not.
Luke, I just got a message in my Facebook for you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sure. And it's this. We just got through talking about how someone who finds out you're on the list, sets you back. Because now they don't want to finish the project, they back out the project. Now you got to go find someone else to redo their work. Depending on what level of the project they were in, or if they were the penciler, the colorist, they could set you back a couple $100s to back to square one. Yeah,
thousands of dollars. Yeah,
right. Wouldn't it be fair though to say that if your penciler declares CG in the middle of a campaign, that they could set you back thousands? Now, my argument to that would be, you are still willing to continue on. Mm-hmm. You will be booted, not you're removing yourself.
Yeah. I finished. I had already finished the art when I came out that I was CG. It was towards the end of the book that I was working on. That we've now done a second book, by the way, and that was funded and successful.
This was not about that book, by the way. This is just a question that.
Okay. Yeah. So, but we were less than a week out from ending that campaign. I was 10 days away from starting a new campaign. I'm always in the process of ending a campaign and starting a campaign. There's never, right now I have no campaign running, which is very odd and very rare that would even happen.
I did want to say on something that Luke said about people pretty much were already in that camp. The day that I declared CG, the biggest, I think Bristoli and Dave was like, "Yeah, Pops, we know." that was that was the response I got from CG, was like, "Yeah, we know, no big deal, right on, you're one of us." Okay. The other side wasn't so sweet, but
Meredith says, when Luke declared himself, I asked him if he was 100% sure if that was something he wanted to do. I asked why, and I was satisfied with his answer and backed him because he's a great creator. Just let the chips fall where they may. People connect to people, and they will appreciate the work. Facebook user says, with the American politics, you can't judge creative sides by the extremists in either camp. I contacted Luke when he declared because I was concerned he'd be associated with the firebrands in GC. I would and will work with him anytime because he does great work. So what does CG stand for? Again, look, that I would ask Luke to answer that. Luke, what does CG mean today? Because we knew what it was at first, but what does it mean today?
It means 5 things, and the fifth one I'm usually kind of iffy on, but it's I'm like, I can't quite remember it, but there's 4 main things that I believe creators now stand for. Number 1 is that it's just good storytelling, that it's not laden with agenda, and it's not trying to do something. I don't know if you remember that old Spider-Man story. It was an anti-smoking Spider-Man story. And it was just so convoluted. You can tell when you're, as a preacher, I know people know when they're being preached at, and we just don't want that. So the other thing that we want, it's like if the fans say they don't like it, stop blaming the fans for being bigots or something else. Turn it inwardly and say, what did I do to, how can I make this better so the fans will like it? It used to be on the creator to do those things. The writer, the artist, the companies to be like, okay, well, the fans didn't like it, we must have gotten off the mark somewhere. Now it's not that way. It's like, you don't like it, it's because of this or whatever. The other thing is hiring people based on their merit and not just because they're clicking off some kind of a box. I have women. My editor is a woman, and I'm going to be honest with you. She didn't get the job because she was a woman. She got the job because we connected well creatively, and now we're 10, 12, 13 scripts in together with not just my main book, but with other things. We are a true partnership. Moving forward with all the things that we do, it's Luke and Piper all the way. And she is a tremendous talent. She's a tremendous talent. And so not being hired on just filling some kind of a box or demographic. Oh, well, we need somebody from Spain, so let's hire. It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with that. And there's, like I said, there's a fifth one in there that's just as equally important to some people as those are to me.
Bill.
No, that's not in there.
That's for me, bro.
But it wasn't a social media. It wasn't a crowdfunding movement. It was fans that went to the comic book store every week and said, "Look, this is not meeting my standard anymore. This is not what it used to be. You used to care about the storytelling. You don't care about that anymore." And so So that really is what it is. It's about creating some quality product for fans to where they can enjoy them, to where they can actually open up the book and read it and enjoy the story without fear of trying to be, told that.
And there's nobody watering down your work either. When you're doing your own stuff, there's nobody, no editor, in chief that's watering down your work. I'm looking at a lot of people in the mainstream who do art in the mainstream, interior work in comics, and they are so much better artists than they're allowed to be. And it's poor, and everything looks cartoony now. Everything looks like nobody's putting any time or effort into it. And a lot of those artists are a lot better than they're being allowed to.
I'm gonna push back on that. No, they're not. The ones that are doing really good art, they're really good artists. The industry is looking for a certain style of art now, and so if that's the style of art that you do, then you get in there. I mean, it's cyclical though. It happened that way before.
Those same artists do so much better work than what they're being allowed to do. That's what I'm saying exactly. Some of them are really
Black
much
Rose
better
has
art.
Black Rose has it right. They stand for a lot of things, but the big one is customers first. Like that's the big focus is the customers first. And I never finished answering the question that was brought up earlier, and I do have to go here in just a minute. What do you do when you have an artist that declares himself CG? Well, we finished out that campaign, and I will argue that sometimes CG will bring in a couple extra bucks. Because I'm finding that the people that complain about CG or are anti-CG don't buy as many comic books as they say they do, oddly enough. But in that situation, I allowed for the creator of that book to replace me on the next book. If he felt the need to make an anti-Comicsgate statement and say, please feel free to support the book, but Luke is off the project and stuff like that. But we talked and I'm still on that project. I don't know that it is. We've ran a second book now, and our funding is right where it was before. Our backer count, it was down just a little bit, but that's usually typical of a second book in a series. Is that it goes down a little because first issues sell better because people are just collectors. So you just have some of that collector market where they're just grabbing up the first issues of everything because they want to have that the next Crow or the next Ninja Turtles.
Oh boy, yeah.
So they're trying to grab that, it's like, listen, indie book, it could be the next whatever,
next
and so
the next bomb is going to come from the indie market. So I mean, the next big boomer comic, the next big boomer IP is going to come out of the indie market.
Well, Pops, they all have. I mean, even when we look at Batman and, like that stuff was, those were publishers, major publishers, but they were really it was still the kind of same general feel of the indies that we have now. It wasn't like those weren't corporate entities that come up and said, hey, here's some ideas. It was guys, sitting around
I'm looking at what they're trying to do now, though. You look at what the IPs, the mainstream is putting out now, and it's just like you were saying, it's all agenda driven, it's all drivel.
Yeah.
Drivel.
Now, I want to say this.
Come out of the people allowed to be who they are and create what they create.
I want to say this, and I've never said this on air before, and I figured, and I've talked to her, and she's okay with me saying this. There was a point there, and Randy will remember this. I think Luke may too. There was a point there where Lola had not announced her book yet. And she was told by someone who is anti-CG. I think it's fair to say now they're anti-CG because it suits them.
At the moment they weren't, or they didn't appear to be.
Yeah. At the they said Lola should definitely declare. Now, this person waited until I was asleep, by the way. They didn't want to do it.
In my opinion, this person had already tried to use CG as a weapon before.
Yeah. And they tried to weaponize what it was. And that was really tactless, that was really tasteless. And they knew that it would be problematic. There's that word for her going forward for the Indie Princess. And she is not declared such, but she is like Indie Vault. Hey, I want to go out there and meet everybody. I want to shake hands. I want to talk to people, much like Luke. I want to talk to people. I don't hate anybody. Luke, I know you got to go.
Yep, I have to jump out officially. Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So,
right,
Luke, thanks for joining us. Thank you. Appreciate you coming in and giving us
you guys,
your opinion.
Take
Thank
care,
you.
man.
And we're still looking for solid letterers, layout artists, and flatters that are interested in working on some projects that I have coming up around the bend. So anybody out there, feel free to go over to lukestonestudios.com and message me with your portfolio.
All right.
You heard it, Madness.
How's it going,
A
guys?
whole bunch of you over there. You need work. Luke's looking for people to work.
So let's talk about Marv. Now you're not in the United States.
No, Portugal, actually.
Yeah, you're in Portugal. You would not have been able to vote in any U.S. election, which is what people will tell you. Oh, well, you know that person is a supporter of this candidate or that candidate. That's why I don't like them. But you are not. And the funny thing is, I keep seeing these things jump up. I seen the other day. I seen CG Japan. I seen CG UK, and you start realizing that is this a global movement? Is this a global thing now? What's going on here? Yeah. And is there a problem on that side? Is the problem bigger than we knew? And is there a problem or is there a problem that some people are seeing in the industry where they have to go off into these groups? And by that, does it become a global problem on the other side then as well? I just want to make sure that people are not using lists and clubs to not work with people, because I have been personally blacklisted before. And it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. I didn't like it. I didn't like being blacklisted. I didn't like knowing that people didn't want to work with me because of hearsay or because, I am a certain way. I mean, let's face it. And I'll say this again. I'm African American. There are people who have a preconceived idea of how I'm going to be before they even meet me because they see my skin color first. So if I see you on that list, do I get to think, oh, well, this guy or girl is a racist. They are a misogynist. They are, which is kind of hard for, I guess you could be a female misogynist. You could be, but this list,
that's one of the ists that they use.
I just feel that it's going to be a problem long term. Let's talk about the long term problems, the implications, though, of such a list being used.
Any list in general.
Yeah, any list. There are mainstream creators that have gone over that way. There are mainstream creators who have rallied against it. But guys, doesn't it seem just a little? And again, I'm playing both sides here because I'm the host. I got to ask questions. Doesn't it seem really like, I don't know, like everything we're rallying against in this country, all over the world, really, when those in power say, here's a list and don't work with people on that list. If you don't, we're going to work with you. It's almost like do you have your papers? Do you have your card? Do you have your food card? Do you have your food coupon?
No, it's exactly like that.
Yep.
Pay this, please.
Yeah. It's like
that got that type of harassment from the other side is what got Gina Carano in trouble when she noted the likenesses it was to Germany during World War II.
Yep.
But like you have to I feel bad for the creators who are because they want to work in the mainstream. But because listen,
it's the same kind of prejudice that forces you to drink from a different fountain because of the color of your skin.
Randy, what's the name of the show you do on Sunday mornings?
Sunday Funnies.
Funnies. Fun. When did comics quit being fun?
Well, when these idiots
people's beliefs.
When these idiots in the industry started preaching instead of entertaining.
That's what I said. When people started worrying about other people's beliefs.
Yep.
Comics are supposed to be fun, y'all. You write what's in your heart. You entertain your fans. If your fans like it, they buy your book and they look forward to the next one. It's that freaking simple from a fan's point of view. I just want to read good, fun books. Like Luke said, I don't want to be preached at. I don't want to be told I'm wrong think or how to think. I want to be entertained. If I want to be taught, I will buy textbooks, history books, real ones. You see what I'm saying? There's a difference in what's going on. It's like they're trying to turn the comic industry into some kind of a indoctrinational educational system.
Well, just like everything up the line, they're trying to. There's folks out there that are trying to turn everything into propaganda. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they can't wrap their head around entertainment.
I want to ask the panel this: Has a list in the history of lists ever been acceptable? Let me mute that for a second. The dog's kind of loud. Has a list at any point ever been acceptable? And I'll come back to you, Pops. Give me a second. Has a list ever been acceptable to anybody? Like, would you ever see yourself using a list? I mean, because I have a list, and it's a list of people I like to work with.
Yeah, same here. I got a list of people that I want to work with. So, I can accept an advice. Be careful, that kind of stuff. I appreciate it. But, I got a list of people that I want to work with. That's not a big deal. I'm not hating anyone. I'm not jealous about anyone because what I can do is the way I draw is because if I do a good drawing is because I work hard on my craft. If I spend lots of hours, endless hours, months after work, 4 or 5 hours a day, drawing with my pencils and my papers, and I was a traditional artist, and I know how to draw because I worked for it, and I was inspired by other artists, by other indie artists, by Silver Age artists. So I worked my ass off to know what I know now. But I'm not jealous of anyone. I love to see when somebody is doing well in a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, whatever. I really, really get excited because I think that I can do well. I want to work to do that, to be able to do that. So that's an inspiration for me. I'm not jealous with anyone. I don't give a shit about that kind of stuff, So I'm neutral. I don't care if you're CG. I don't care your politics. I don't care your religion. Maybe when the Sin Killer will come out, people will hate me because my characters don't believe in God, and he have evil powers, and maybe that will happen. But I don't care. I love that. I know that there are people that love that. But I'm neutral in any way. So
let's turn to the chat real quick.
You said lists. You said you have your own list. You have a list of people you want to work with. Okay. Oh, yeah. Everybody has their own personal lists, and those are fine. Yeah. These are your personal life experiences, people you mesh well together with or not, or whatever. Those are your personal lists.
It's not the list.
Publicizes and weaponizes a list is what we're talking about. And who's weaponizing this list?
Well, that's the thing. You know what? It seems that people are very careful to not give out the information of who is putting these out. Now, we've done a little digging. We figured out who is making these demands. And which publishers are making these demands. Let me go through the list real quick, though. That does okay, Randy. What?
You got a list of publishers that are making these demands?
No, well, we figured out who at least 3 of the publishers are who are making these demands of creators. Like, hey, if you ever want to work with us, you can't work with those people. Which, by the way, guys, does technically if you had a deal in place, will be torturous interference.
Oh, yes.
But you know, it's. Let me look at this though. Anita says that she has a Christmas list. Imperial Vote says, listen, just wait for the conventions and quarterly reports. When you see them get further hollowed out, the universe isn't kind to jerks, and these people are detestable, malicious liars. They're digging themselves a hole. Healthy organizations look for converts. Unhealthy organizations search for heretics. They are dying. Critical Blast says, who has an Alex the Campy clause? And Imperial Vote says, do this point. Listen, again, the people that I spoke with who use this list to not work with, they are passionate about it because they have been told this. They would not believe this had someone in power not told them it was so.
Exactly.
So someone in power or someone they perceive to be trustworthy,
powerful,
told them, don't work with people on this list because if you do, we won't work with you in the mainstream.
We are going to control your alliances, control your product, even though we're not paying you, on the hope that you might get hired by us.
Now, Imperial Vote says blacklisting is actually illegal in several states. California and Texas both formally have laws against it.
Nice.
California and Texas. So
it's not stopping what's happening at all.
Well, yeah, because it's online. So I can choose not to work with you because I may be looked at in a way that is because look, there have been people who've told me I can't come on Indie Vote. Why not? Well, because you guys aren't you haven't declared against it. We're not going to. We are the media on Indie Vote. We are not going to declare against any division because that is what media outlets, actual media outlets, supposed to do.
Are supposed to do. They're supposed to be in the middle and to investigate both sides and give you the facts. So trust in the fact that Varian does do his homework. He does look into these things. He doesn't just go, "Oh, there's a headline. Let's go talk about it." He will look into it. He will investigate and find out everything he can know about it before he comes out and does a show like this.
Which is exactly why sometimes our headlines are like an hour or two late because I have to dig into it because I don't want to post sensationalist headlines. They get people to say, "Oh, what's going on?" Then I have to do a retraction an hour later stating, "Oh, I'm sorry, we were misinformed." Facebook user says, Critical Bat says DC Entertainment is based in California. They are. Facebook user says, or are some of the people who are told don't work with them, the blank get their erroneous information from someone who reads a website like it's gospel. Most publishers are concerned with you only doing good work. Are you good to work with? And can you make your deadlines only? And that's what I'm being told by people outside, the people who have worked with Marvel, people who have worked with the mainstream. They're telling me, Varian, that's a lie. They don't care. They don't care. They care about your talent. If they're not working with you, it's because you're not talented enough yet. Whoa. So learn to get more talented, and they will work with you. But there's nothing you can do. Because here's the other thing too. And I where does it end? Where does it end, guys? What happens if next week it's, hey, I talked to Marvel. You know, it's the Wizard of Oz comes down and says, I've talked to Marvel. They said don't work with any black person, or we won't. I mean, they'll never do this because but or we won't work with you. I mean, first of all, why don't you tear down Oz's facade and find out who's inside that costume? But also, where does the list end? If you believe it now, what's stopping you from believing later? Because again, the gentleman I spoke to didn't know he was on the list. He didn't know. And read the qualifiers to be on that list. I'll bring it up. You guys can see it. You want to see the qualifiers to be on the list?
Yeah, I want to see it.
The qualifiers to be on that list say it's an unofficial. It says it right there. Unofficial listing of creators who hashtag Comicsgate on Twitter and or promote CG products on their YouTube channels based on publicly available information. The goal is to make it easier for
I should be on this list then.
Their channels and their projects. But it says it's unofficial. So that means
somebody ain't doing their homework because I should be on that list.
I've seen some weak ass art come out of Marvel, but listen, and Randy will tell you this. A couple of weeks ago, there was another mandate from the mainstream. I don't know if you guys heard about this. Stop being mean to them. Stop being critical of what they're doing. If they see you, I wish I was joking. I'm gonna turn my camera on. I'm not dressed for special issues. I want you guys to see how serious I am. I was told you have to stop talking about Marvel and DC's products, because if they see you being critical of their products, they'll never work with you.
Okay, I don't buy DC and Marvel since last century, so I'm okay.
So, but some of your heroes have been critical of Marvel and got hired. Hell, we had a young lady say a couple of years ago, F. Stan Lee, and now she works for Marvel.
Well, because they all probably say F. Stan Lee too.
Well, yeah, but the thing is,
I'm afraid so.
The thing is, so we weren't supposed to be critical, and the thing was, I was saying, well, and they effed up. They effed up because they started saying, well, here, you can't say you don't like the books. You said you don't read them. Well, they effed up with me because I read them. Every week I'm at the comic store. Every week I'm at the comic store buying books. See, you don't mess with the trust fund kid. I run to the comic store. I get the books every week. I don't like them. I don't like what I'm reading, but I still support them because it's a bad habit. It's like smoking to me at this point.
Comic books are like crack.
Yeah.
But I had to switch brands because, I mean, I've told you before when I've talked to basically all of you that I've been collecting comic books since 1972, 74. And, I'm obviously from my Twitter handle, Joker fan. I'm a huge Batman guy.
Mm-hmm.
My list used to be at least 50 titles a month. From mainstream to small press. Right now, my entire pull list at my LCS is Batman and Detective because, the FOMO, and I don't want to break the run. And I'm getting Immortal Hulk until issue 50. And then in Immortal Hulk's the only reason I bought anything from Marvel in like the last, since I came out of the coma and came to my senses.
Don't you agree that, or wouldn't you agree that the comic shops are the ones hurting the most and should be the most vocal? But then again, they've been preconditioned to not not be able to bitch and not be able to complain.
Whoa! We just had a guy who said he walked into a comic shop with the wrong jacket and got tossed.
Yeah,
remember?
That's true.
Yep.
It had the wrong logo on the jacket, and the guy got treated as if he had walked into the store with a swastika.
I also know people who have had their mail from that particular publisher, had their mail damaged by mail carriers because of.
I would not be surprised. Yeah. Randy and I were just talking about that this morning.
Yeah,
we were just talking about this off the air this morning. That be careful how you send products. Mail carriers are you'll be surprised who knows what and where they work. The other thing, Randy, I'd like to ask you because you were very vocal when we found out about the list. And you said it's a blacklist, and you recalled several moments in history where being on a list was not advisable.
I can't recall of any time somebody being prejudiced from being on a list was a positive thing, ever. And it, in the long run didn't fall on the wrong side of history. And I told that person that too. I said, dude, that's what everybody says, wrong side of history.
I spoke to that person earlier, and they said, well, the problem is that you and the other person that didn't like the list have no ambitions to work in the mainstream. There was no ambitions. It was like, you don't want to work in the mainstream. They do. And that's the main difference. But I feel bad because it's like,
that's a chicken shit response.
Well, I don't know.
I got to be honest. It's a chicken shit response. You make a stand and you get in on your talent. You go where you want to go, and you put yourself there, and you get yourself there. And if you can't get there if you want to be in the midst of a group of people that are prejudiced, that are literally on the wrong side of history, that are hating people because they don't want to take the time to educate themselves about the actual person itself. These people want to stand on their soapboxes. They want to virtue signal. They want to seem like they're big, moral stand-up people in the community, and yet they don't believe in Martin Luther King when he says you got to judge a person by the content of their character and not the label or the color.
Yep.
100%.
You have to know these people, know their talent. And if you're in business not to be prejudicial. You're not there to judge an individual on that content, character. Perhaps, if they're a toxic person, you don't want them in your workplace. But if they believe in a political way and they're still that may not agree with you, but they're still making money and have proven to make money, you should want to have their ability under your umbrella. And no, I don't have any ambition. And here I'm talking to my camera. I don't even have it on. Hang on just a second here. Boom. I'm sorry. I should probably put on a hat.
Hat club, Randy. Hat club.
Let me put a hat on before the glare gets to everybody. Here we go.
You were naked.
It distresses and disturbs me that people can't get educated enough to understand what the fuck's happening here, and that they don't want to see history repeating itself. And when it comes to entertainment, shame on them people. Stop me when you've had enough of my soapbox, but. All these people ought to be ashamed of themselves, not getting to know a person. When I got back into this business, and I'll tell you, I stepped out of the direct market because the direct market under Diamond sucks, absolutely sucks, and I hate it. And I don't want to work for the mainstream guys because they work for Diamond. And that's why I got out in 2003, 2004, because I realized I wasn't working for myself. I was working for Diamond. Diamond was telling me what books I was going to produce, what books I wasn't going to produce because of their stupid retail.
Telling retailers what books they were going to buy.
No, and retailer board didn't even give us a chance to get on the shelves, which was irritating. We turned into a pulls-only company. We were told we were insignificant. We were in the green section, and there's no way we're ever going to step up. Well, fine. I don't have to work in your system. I'll find another way to go. So I did a newspaper for 10 years. But when I started getting back into this market, because Varian and I were talking, and Varian says, you need to check these guys out because they're actually criticizing comics. And they're criticizing comics for everything you were criticizing comics for the lack of talent, for the nepotism going on in the industry. And it was long before people decided to take political stands that there was nepotism going on all the time. If you were good buddies, if you were able to snuggle up to a local editor or whatever, you could get work from them if you kissed enough ass or got on your knees hard enough. We had a big saying behind the scenes, it's not who you know, it's who you know. And that's always been the case with the large mainstream guys. I got fed up with Diamond because I didn't have a level playing field. There was and I didn't want a level playing field with the mainstream guys. I wanted a level playing field with the retailers. I wanted to be in there to show the retailers I could do a product for them they can make money off of me for, because I wanted to make them money. Well, I wasn't allowed to show them that because I was always demeaned down to a pulls only company. That's what we became. So I went from doing books when I first started Arrow 3.0. There were three books I was doing: Wonderland, Oz, and War of the Worlds, because I knew retailers would know when I said Wonderland, they'd know what to expect. When we mentioned Oz or Dark Oz at the time, which is the title we were using, that's what they expect. And War of the Worlds, they would know it was guys versus Martians. Those books didn't go anywhere. Except Dark Oz ended at issue 5. Wonderland was barely able to get to issue 3. War of the Worlds barely got to issue 2 because retailers weren't ordering us, because we were a pulls only company. They only ordered to orders, and that's if they decided they wanted to fill that customer's orders. Well, now all of this backlash happens because people are criticizing the market and people get pigeonholed and turned into hate labels, which they turned that they labeled all these people Comicsgate. If you go back in your history, the Comicsgate label isn't even original.
Right.
Comicsgate came from Gamergate. Gamergate came from an entire different connotation than what Comicsgate came. And all of these gates all started from Watergate.
And Comicsgate did not label themselves Comicsgate. They were labeled Comicsgate by the
and too many people took that name in the wrong way and have tried to mold it to what it's supposed to, or to what it means to a lot of folks. The big problem is they're never going to get past that stigma, because quite frankly, labels are for the weak-minded. And you need to get away from this Comicsgate stuff in both directions. I'm not saying, and in order to get rid of that, you need to start judging people, artists, talent on their content, on their character, on their ability. Are they toxic? Are they able to make money? Are they good for the business, for your business? And if they're not, don't hire them. That's why you're seeing this anti-CG list popping up, because these people are so vocal and so full of hate and vitriol that they're being prejudiced against
and scared.
That's why you have the Alex DeCampi clause. That's why Heather Antos is working for whoever she might happen to find a job with. I don't know where she's at.
Well, you have to admit though that Pop said something. He said scared. It's a bit of being scared too, because these guys are thinking, I want to work in the mainstream. That's my goal. I open those Marvel books. I open those DC books. I fell in love with those characters, those worlds. I want to work with them. I want to put my stamp on them. But I'm scared because someone's telling me if I work with this person, I can't do that. And what is my life? What has my career been up to this point if I don't get that opportunity?
These are literally the little kids in the schoolyard. Mm-hmm. They're the little kids in the schoolyard who the big kid comes up to and says, "Hey, give me your lunch money." And they go, oh, okay. Here's my lunch money. You go and you look. The CG brand, if you want to call it that, the label has mutated since the initial pigeonholing, and a lot of the negative elements. And I'm not saying it's perfect. A lot of the negative elements have been flushed out. The toxic people, the negative people, the hateful people, and there's people like that everywhere on both sides. But the main course,
nobody's flushing out the other side.
Yeah, the main push of CG now is good comics and customers first.
Would you say though, Randy?
And that's just good business. You go and you look at these CG people and how much money they're making. Who's making more of a living? Who's making a living faster?
But do you understand the fear from some of these people who are saying that I really want? I mean, it's their dream.
Well, you have to understand
the fear I was referring to.
You have to understand my context, because no, I don't understand it, and I think they're chicken shit bastards.
Okay. The fear I was referring to.
That's from my point of view, because no, I don't want to be part of the mainstream. Not that mainstream. That's not my comics.
And to me,
I've been told that's not my comics, and we didn't make these comics for you. No, thank God you didn't. But who the hell did you make them for? You didn't make them for anybody else.
But do you like
the fear I was referring?
You're lucky you get the numbers you get because you have non-returnable ability. You're lucky you get the numbers you get because some retailer out there is stuck ordering 25 of your book in order to get the one book they know that they can put up on eBay and make money on. You're lucky. You're making the money you're making. Lucky.
My fear, when I said fear, what they're afraid of, I wasn't talking about afraid of not being able to be in a mainstream book. I was talking about the fear of what they're dealing with right now, because they have to directly compete against the CG people who are beating the shit out of them at the box office, if you want to call it that.
You're going to get jealousy, but the reason those people are making money is because they're making entertaining product, not because they're under some fucking label.
Well, they're
making a book that there are books out there that are on Kickstarter that aren't CG that are phenomenal, and they're slowly starting to be recognized and make hardcore better money. But the CG has always been a label, pro or con, and the pro side right now has the wallets.
But if someone that you perceive to be in power, because again, I know some people who started their whole comic book company based on and I joke about this, but it's true. based on a 20-second photo op conversation with Stan Lee.
Mm-hmm.
They base their whole like company around it. Now, that said, Stan Lee is someone in the business who's respectable. If I were to get a chance to go talk to Todd McFarlane and Mark Silvestri, and I had their ear for 10 minutes, and they told me, they said, Varian, if you want to make a big splash in comics, you need to draw at your desk for 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And you will be a better artist in 1 year's time.
Yeah.
8 hours a day. Well, you best believe I'm going to be at that desk for 8 hours a day. Now, that's a little bit different because at that point, I'm teaching myself a skill.
Yes.
But I guess my bullshit alert would go off if they told me, Varian, if you want to be a good comic book artist, you can't kiss your wife for a year. That would be like, wait a minute, what's my wife got to do with this? What I don't understand.
Yeah.
And there's also a point where you start wondering, what happens? And this is the question I would ask anybody who does use a list, because I fear lists. I do. What happens if you're wrong? What happens if the independent becomes the mainstream?
It's too late.
It already is.
It already is.
There will always be mainstream in indie.
All you got to do is look at the Comic-Con numbers. Very rarely is it Marvel or DC book hitting big numbers anymore.
Critical Blast says, I live for the day IndieCron and ICV2 breakout comics as a grouping in that sells Marvel DC. That would be an interesting day.
I hope that never happens, because I think that, in my personal opinion, the CG label needs to go away. It needs to be GC, Good Comics.
Yeah.
Not
Dude,
this
you might
stupid
have
brand
just
that's
started
out there.
something, Randy.
Not the stupid brand that people want to point at and go, those are ists and phobes, when they're not. These are the people that are against diversity. These are the people that are you hear it all the time. CG is a hate group, when in all actuality, the people that are saying that actually make up the hate group.
Mm-hmm.
Mary Machine Gun says, judge not for the color of their skin label, judge them for the content, the character. Critical.
Exactly it.
Facebook.
It's a shame that we've got Martin Luther King as a holiday here in the States in January, I believe, second or third Monday in January, and yet his speeches, the stuff he was promoting, the point of his message gets lost. So badly on so many of these so-called liberals who want to go out there and hate. It's insane.
I do want to say this, because we have to close the show up, but I want to say this, and I'll let you guys all have a final word on it. The list is unofficial, so I would hope that if you are using this list, make sure that you're researching, because things can be weaponized against people. Again, I spoke to someone who has no idea why they're on the list. They have no idea.
They were on my show. Oh.
Yeah.
I want to know why I'm not on the list.
No, that wasn't why. They had no idea why they were on the list. They were like, I have no idea.
We're probably on a list now.
We're probably on a list somewhere
as well. Yeah,
we're on a list somewhere.
I'm sure we're on somebody's list, and say,
I've been on somebody's list for years.
There's quite a few people that are on my list.
I'm pretty sure we're on someone's shit list at Indie Vote, because we cover everybody. I'm pretty sure there's someone who doesn't like us, but watch out, people weaponizing it against you to keep you, creative person, from creating, doing what you want to do. There are people who don't want you to work, period. They don't want you to,
because heaven forbid, if you're working, you're taking away their job.
That's right. They don't want you crawling.
Oh my goodness, it's as if they were immigrants or something.
They don't want you crawling out of that abyss and find, oh, there's light. Wait a minute, I know I'm working now. They don't want that for you. So they will use your alliances to try to drag you down, especially when you're no longer in alliance with them. they will say, "Oh, okay, you
don't let them tell you what to do."
So they will move on. So just be careful, because I've watched those lists become. I've watched things like that become horrible for both parties.
And again, I'm sorry to break in, Varian, but we just had this discussion last freaking week about people that'll go in and triangulate. They'll go through and they'll separate they have to pigeonhole you. You're not that, you're this. Or they'll try to get you alone in order to bully you and say, you don't want to be on that list. You don't want to be close to that list. Don't be associated with anybody on that list because you'll never get work. That's toxic. That's not the way to be, especially in an industry where we're supposed to be open, where we're supposed to be communicative and maybe actually making livings here.
Yeah, I've been told it's supposed to be inclusive in the industry. I got a patch on one of my shirts that says "Comics are for everybody," and
they should be for everybody.
Yeah. But apparently that's not the case.
And they're supposed to be fun, Sunday funnies, and they're supposed to be fun.
Yeah,
and apparently that's not the case. I want to thank you guys for being here. I'll let you each finish up with saying something you want, a closing statement on the subject. I'm gonna start with Marv. Marv, go ahead.
I think that list will grow up, will continue to grow as long as there are labels. There will always be a point to be against, and there will be more names. And the only way that that list will end is if those sharks will eat each other. So that's what I think. So in my case, I don't care if one day I'll be in the blacklist of somebody. I have my list of people that I would like to work with, and the rest I don't really care. So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, I hope that there's never a list one day where we're like, hey, let's make sure that we're all hiring only artists from America. And I see a list that says look, Marv is in Portugal. Don't hire him. He's not American. That's what about the man's talent? I want to work with Marv because he's talented. I want to work with Marv because he can render a page in the style that I think fits this project. That's why I want to work with Marv. I don't care. I don't care who Marv voted for.
I don't vote for anyone.
Let's look at Will.
All right, I wanted to really quick just say I also work for Outright Geekery, so I shared this to their page stream, and I'm a content distribution manager for them, so I talk to all the distributors. I tend to talk to the smaller press distributors more often because they're more open to, giving us review copy or interviews or what have you. We used to be partners with another podcast because it was half of our guys and half of their guys. It was called the Comics Cast podcast, and it was headed up by a guy online whose screen name was Boogie Bentley, who does Just Wrestling podcast now.
Okay. And
we were talking when we had a show when we were going back and forth about the new Fantastic Four, and because everything got all the hashtags in the write up, Dan Slott saw it and went back and looked at everybody's friggin' had one of those people look at everybody's history and saw that Boogie followed EBS, and he came out talking trash about the podcast, everybody on the podcast. Of course, that tweet disappeared within 24 hours. And then, he blocked all of us.
That's part of the course for Dan Slott. That's what he does.
And I'm like, I'm fine with that because he sucks. But, that's what I think. I'm going to buy books that I like, that I find something interesting in, like Indie Vote Revolt, Tale is from Outer Space that I just backed the other day. I just want to be entertained and buy good books that I like the art, I like the concepts, what I've heard of the story. buy what you like and can enjoy. Don't have people in the big offices telling you that, oh, you have to buy this, you have to buy that. It's like buy what you enjoy.
Yeah, that's very true, because I'll tell you, Will, there are some people who I know from working on being invited to help out with certain other campaigns, look at their shipping for them. I've been given the keys to the accounts, and I've seen some anti CGs. I've seen them actually buying CG books. I don't out it. I don't talk about it, but it happens. So some of the same people who are virtual signaling are looking over you to make sure, you always got to make sure that person, they're not over at the Art of the Fae. They told you what not to do. Rules are for thee, not for me.
Yep.
They'll tell you what not to do, but the minute you turn your back, they're doing it. They're actually reading the books. They have the books in their collection. They don't want to tell you about it because it will destroy their reputation.
Just remember, your haters are sharing out your stuff to be negative, and sharing like your posts, whether it's for your Kickstarter, Indiegogo, your show like this. They're sharing it out more than the fans are. The fans are sharing it like 2 or 3 times. They're sharing it out just to be negative. And if people actually tune into the product, whether it be a talk show format like this, or a book, a radio show, whatever, and they see the content of it and what it's actually about, they'll be like, what are these people talking about?
Facebook user says, Will, I was in another room and listening, and I think your voice is very reminiscent of Stan Lee. Have you heard that before?
No, but if somebody would gladly pay me $100 for my autograph, I can back this other campaign I was looking at yesterday.
Critical Blast.
You just need to get a little scratchier.
And Critical Blast says haters have sold me more books than fans have. He also says Emmett has declared us as having shady affiliations. Shady affiliations. Wow. And Dave says, wait, are you saying they're hypocrites? I'm shocked. Pops, your closing statements on the matter.
Okay, my first closing statement will be something I've been saying for quite a while, and you've all heard it more than once. Those who deserve to be canceled usually cancel themselves. Period. No list is doing anything but drawing people's attention to artists, creators. Now, you got people out there that want to use a list and weaponize it, publicize it, weaponize it. And, I'm hoping that it works against them. I really am. Everybody who's out there going, hey, that guy, using a whole list based on no life experience or actual working experience with the people, that's just bullshit. Randy said, I got a list. Everybody's got a list. Marv said, I got a list. Okay, everybody's got a list of people they will work with, won't work with, promote, not promote, whatever. We all start. The difference is we all start with the inclusivity, not exclusivity. We don't tell people, hey, you got to be like this or you can't be part of our game. We don't do that. We let you come in no matter who you are, what you are, and who you are determines whether you get to hang around or not. We let you in, okay? And that's the same way that's the way it's supposed to be. Everybody's supposed to get their shot, okay? Everybody's supposed to get their shot. You're not supposed to exclude somebody for any reason other than they were shitty to you personally. That's the only reason you have to make a list, and a bad list. Have a bad list is because somebody actually treated you wrong, not because you heard this about somebody from 10 years ago, or that tweet they made when they were drunk 14 years ago, or any of that crap. How they interact with you personally is the only way you should ever hold them up to any standard, is how they've actually interacted with you personally. And as soon as everybody just does that, interact with people first, then decide, whether it's somebody you want to continue to interact with. Not because somebody told you or they're holding a carrot in front of you. That's the most ridiculous part of this whole thing. Hey, we might hire you in 15 years if you don't associate with any of the people on this list. And this list is going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And pretty soon, the only people they're going to be allowed to work with are the people already in their own bullpen. It's ridiculous. You can't exclude people for having friends. You can't exclude people for who they've worked with in the past. I mean, you can, but it's not a good look. You exclude people for how they treat you personally, or maybe your family, your kids, your grandkids. Yeah, you might have a list of people that have done your family wrong, or you might have a list of people that have done you wrong. Those are personal life experience lists, not, oh, I heard it on the fucking internet lists. All right? People got to get over that internet said shit really bad. Go talk to some of these people. You'll find out it's not what it's made up to be. Not at all. That's all I got to say.
And Randy. Randy, sir, I'm gonna let you have the last closing statement. Go ahead.
Gonna let me have the last closing statement.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I'll lean back on what I've always said on Indie Vault podcast. We're in a unique position right now as alternative and independent comic people. A chance to have our say, a chance to make this art form an art form that's respected and widely read. And the only way we're going to do that is if we all get along, if we all help each other, if we all work towards that common goal. And separations, the labels, pigeonholing doesn't do anybody any good. Right. Succumbing to bullying doesn't do anybody any good. Some of these people that are up there that you admire, by the time you get up there, are not going to be there. The majority of and you'll hear these stories over and over again, especially somebody that worked for Marvel. I made an association with such and such an editor. I worked for him, did 2 books. The editor left and I got screwed. I'm done. There are so many people that have gone through the mainstream like that because of this sad nepotism problem, or you're not the buddy of whoever, or you didn't take anybody out to dinner or whatever. That the other forms of entertainment, your video games, the animation, have all gained from comics being exclusive and segregated. Josh Whedon would have been a big voice in comics, not that he's got a reputation now. Stephen King would have been a huge voice in comics if he was allowed to get in. But by the time he got old enough to write horror stories that he loved when he was reading as a kid from those EC comics, Comic Code Authority was in place, and there was no way he was ever going to place a comic story. So he started writing prose. There are numerous amount of people in the entertainment industry, in the video games industry, in the movies industry. That's why we're getting the Marvel movies that we're getting now, because Raimi and Feige and all these people wanted to grow up in comics and weren't allowed to. So they went around it. They figured out their way. They found their way elsewhere because they couldn't break into the stupid bullying system. That system has to go if you want to make money. Now, by the time you get up there, you need to really look and you need to think hard if you're out there believing these stupid idiots with these lists, because they're not going to be around for long. You might see them survive another couple of years, and then if they stay the way that they are, and then their numbers keep dropping, where are they going to be? What are you going to do if you want to work in comics? Work in comics. Work with people that are talented. Doesn't matter who they are or not who they are, but it doesn't matter what hole you want to stick them in. If they're talented, there's a reason they're out there and the reason they're talented. You need to figure that out. And this business, this industry should be open to everybody. Everybody. Doesn't matter who, what, wherever, however you are. You need to welcome these people with open arms, because these perspectives only add to the art form. The more different the perspective, the better. and it's only going to help this art form grow. And all of these idiots out there, especially these big companies, I know two of these companies out there that are riding on this list. Their diversity is very small. Only if you fit the pigeonhole of the book that they're working on. You know, if you're gay, you get to write the gay books. If you're a certain skin color, you get to write the certain skin color books, because obviously nobody else can have that perspective, because these people don't know what makes good writing. Good writing is research. Good writing is empathy. Good writing is characterization. Good writing is caring. And there's a lot of good writers out there who can handle a wide variety of subjects, and often do, especially in prose. And we're in an art form where we can have our say. We can, especially in the alternatives and independents. Now's the time for us to do that. Now's the time for us to go out there and break these companies that are single-minded, that are closed-minded. I meant to say, these companies that are closed-minded don't need to be there. They don't need to be there.
You know,
we need to go out there and go beyond that. And I'm sick and tired of people like, for example, I print Luke Stone stuff. And in August, I'm going to print his stuff every month. And I'm printing his stuff every month because it's good stuff. It's not because he fits a label. And anybody who asks me, and I've had people ask me, oh, well, that means Arrow's CG then, doesn't it? No. That means Arrow is into good comics.
Means Arrow's independent, y'all. Just
Arrow wants to print good comics. We want to print entertaining stuff, and Arrow wants to make money.
Yeah.
And we're going to go out there and figure out how to do that. We're going to try different things and do different things. And, you know, if you're not signed up for Liberty and you're a retailer out there, you're going to be closed down on a large part of the alternative market. Don't do that. Sign up for Liberty. Get in there, get to know what they're all about, because it's guaranteed sales, man.
I want to thank you guys for joining me.
You order books from Liberty, you can get it back. Are we tight on time? I can keep soapboxing all day, but get rid of these labels. These labels are for the weak-minded. And grow some balls.
Varian, yesterday, I did a lot of shots with you and your people, bro. A lot of shots. I did a lot of shots at your birthday party. I did a lot of shots on Backer Shots. I went over to Piper Show and did some more shots over there. You know why? Because that's what I do. I drink and I know things.
Because you like doing shots. That's why.
Yeah. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I hope this conversation keeps going outside of this show. I hope people keep talking about it. You know, it's funny. I want to leave you guys with this. It's funny. There's a list for people who have apparently sided with a certain group or said, hey, I'm going to use this. But everyone goes hush hush when someone starts talking about compiling a list of wrongdoers and assholes in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, give me my bell. Hang on.
I want you guys to think about that for a while.
Bell. A way bigger bell. Like ding, ding, ding.
I want you to think about that for a while. Why you maybe you should be compiling a list of people who have done wrong.
Yeah.
With receipts that are freely available online. Make that your list. Work from that list.
People who burn people who rip people off, people who don't do what they said they're going to do contractually.
Think about making that list. Think about working from that list, because I hear people saying, I'm working on that list, but I'll work with an asshole.
Yep.
Think about that for a while. You guys have a great 4th of July. We'll be back here next week with another special issues. See you soon. I've been Varian Grant, Indie Special Issues. Thanks for watching.